Welcome into the Harness Half Hour, brought to you by HRNZ Marketing. Our guests today are Dane Alexander, Yannick Gingras, Ellie Barron, Fred Mitchell, Tom Conroy and Richard Wilson. And here's this week's headlines. Cherie Wigg is currently representing New Zealand in the World Amateur Driving Champs in Belgium and got off to a fine start, recording a win in her first race. You can follow her progress on our website this week as news comes to hand. Chicago Bull has clinched another win on his journey to the New Zealand Cup. He's had 3 wins from 3 starts this prep, and Team Hall have indicated they would like to tackle the Victoria Cup on their way to New Zealand. And Lazarus had his first qualifier at the Meadowlands on Sunday morning New Zealand time and stunned onlookers, recording 1:48.3 when beating home North America Cup winner the 3-year-old Lather Up. On the show this week, I will interview his driver, Yannick Gingras. Well, it's a pleasure to welcome onto the Harness Half Hour Dane Alexander, who of course has wound down his training career, Dane, after a remarkable 58 years, and you had your last starter at Alexandra Park on Friday night. What were the emotions like for you?
Pretty normal, really. Apart from the fact I had a lot of guys come up and shake hands with me and wish me all well. And that was something that was really nice, you know.
Did that blow you away that people were wanting to go out of their way to wish you luck?
It was unexpected, certainly.
Did you have a bit of time, Dane, to reflect on the career that you have? Because I understand you're now 82 years old and, you know, as I say, 58 years training horses, there'd be a lot of fond memories for you.
Yes, well, the memories mightn't be easy to dig up nowadays, but yes, we've had a pretty good time. Really, we've been rather lucky. We've been lucky with our health, and we've been fortunate enough to have a reasonable amount of reasonable horses in the earlier days, and in the later days when I concentrated mainly on breaking horses in and pre-training for other people. It was quite good because you didn't have the pressures as you have when you're training for owners to race horses, and whether they're successful or not, you know.
I note too, Dane, you've mentioned that you've had some great horses that you ended up selling overseas. Was that quite a hard decision?
Yes and no. It was a hard decision. In fact, the fact that a horse that you thought might go on and win more races, you'd like to keep, but that happens today even. But economics said you had to sell because the bank manager's knocking on the door and they want a bit of money, and you've got to be able to front up. You know?
Some of those horses that went overseas, Dane, are there any that stand out for you that went on to do very well?
Well, there was two in particular, I suppose. A horse called Hello Birdie, who won the Manawatu Cup, Hara Cup, the big race at Hara the second day, and then we sold him. He went on to go, I think he went 52 or 53 in America and won about 300,000, which is a lot of money. What would that be? 30 years ago or more. And the other one was Sunshine Boy, who came up from the South Island, and I think he won 6 or 7 out of about 9 starts at Alexandra Park. And I thought he was a potential cup horse. Well, I thought they both were, but him in particular, because he had high speed and could stay, and he was just one of those horses that I've never had one as good since.
You, of course, had Sedgeford Laddie, who finished second in a Rowe Cup. That must be a real highlight for you.
Well, that was a highlight. In fact, the fact that we got a cheque for $18,000 and we'd never seen so much money.
What did you do with that money?
Oh, God knows. I suppose it went towards paying off the property, I guess.
Or buying more horses, probably.
No, I've never been a buyer. I've never been one. I've always been a seller, but never been a buyer. We never had the money to buy horses in those days, and I never had clients who were prepared to spend a bit of money and buy horses, and we just battled away with what we could get. You know.
So, Dane, would you ever have dreamed that at age 82 you'd be, signing off a training career with 247 winners?
Well, no, most of those winners came way back in the 1950s, I suppose, and I probably envisioned carrying on and having more winners like that, but as it turned out, I ran out of owners, and as I say, I went into breaking in, and we didn't race many horses, just the odd one of our own, and we went into breeding a few and selling at the sales, and the few good sales we had only paid for the bad ones, and the ones that weren't good enough to go to the sales, we end up putting in work, and 9 times out of 10 they didn't make the grade either. So, but that's the nature of a business, I suppose. It's an up and down business, and you never know what's around the corner.
And so, would you have any regrets about how you've spent the majority of your life, Dane, in this industry?
No, not really. I've always said that if I hadn't have done this, I'd have just been a truck driver, and I'd probably still trying to pay off my mortgage.
Well, that's very true. And just casting your mind back to how you got involved in harness racing, did you have any family influence, or who helped you out in the early days?
No, my dad was always a keen race goer. We lived in Christchurch, and I was brought up in Christchurch. And he was a keen race goer, and I used to traipse along to Addington, and of course in those days there were 8 races a day, and they only raced on Saturdays. And I always liked the horses. Why, I don't know, but I end up leading horses around and to cool out, and the trainers in those days always had boys walking their horses, and you'd get 2 bob for walking a horse, which was a lot of money, like 20 cents, and then someone would give you half a crown, which was 25 cents, and you thought you were made, But that's how I was sort of involved, and I always remember I saw this horse coming off the track after a race, a chestnut horse, and I thought, gee, he looks nice. And I went round and I was just standing watching them taking out of the cart, and this guy said, hang on to his head, son. So I hung on to his head and led him into his box, and he stood on my toe as I led him in the box. And I hobbled around for a few days after that, and the horse was a horse called Integrity, who won the New Zealand Cup. Vic Leeming trained him, and I ended up going out to Vic Leeming's on school holidays and Prebbleton and weekends, and pushing the bike from Christchurch all the way out there and pushing it back. You'd have a southerly when you're going out and an easterly when you're coming back, and it was all hard work. But I used to love it being a kid. You're keen as anything, and that's how I got involved. Ended up working for Vic permanently for quite a few years, and that was a good education.
My goodness, so that was really a fortuitous moment to just be called to hold that horse's head at that time, and it led to this.
Right. That's probably where it started from,
Yeah, thanks to Integrity.
And interestingly enough, when they retired Integrity, I got him out of his box and loaded him on the float to go wherever he was going, and he stood on my toe again.
A final hurrah from the horse.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Dane, it's lovely to chat to you, and congratulations on 58 years training horses, and Idealistic signing off your career with a nice 5th on Friday night. So well done on your service to this industry, and I hope you have many years' enjoyment left.
Yes, well, that's the main thing now, surviving the rest of the time without a horse.
And how do you think you're going to do that? Have you got any plans?
That's a very good question. Can you answer it for me?
I'm sure someone will call on you for some advice, Dane.
Oh, yeah, well, I've had plenty of people wanting to give me a part-time job, but I said I won't be able to start till 10 o'clock and I want to finish by 11.
Has anyone taken you up on that?
No, they all shied.
Well, good on you, Dane. Thank you so much for your time, and congratulations again on your career.
Thank you, Jess.
Time now to find out what is making news on social media, and starting with New Zealand, we're getting close to awards time. This year they'll be held at the end of September, and this year there'll be a category for Best Moment. You can vote for what you think is the best moment from the season that has just been via our website. Also, congratulations to Grant Ross, who recorded his first win as a driver at Oamaru on Sunday. Well done, Grant. Looking to Australia, Chris Alford hit 400 wins for the season over the weekend as he continues that rampage. Gotta Go Yahoo wins again at Menangle, and Stress Factor looks set to be the favourite for this week's Victoria Trotters Derby. And from the US and Canada, this Sunday New Zealand time is Hambletonian Day at the Meadowlands. You can follow all of the updates there via the USTA handles for more news as it happens. Lazarus's qualifier naturally is making big waves on social media, and also bit of a legend, the 9-year-old. He won his 45th career race over the weekend, and that came in the Open at Yonkers. Well, all the way from New Jersey, the other side of the earth, we're chatting with Yannick Gingras, who yesterday, New Zealand time, got to experience Lazarus for the first time. Yannick, what were your impressions around the stallion?
You know, from on this side, I've watched many of his replays and many of his races while he was there, and you see him do things, and you're like, oh wow, like that. It's really impressive. But I don't think people really realize here how great he really was. And then when I got to sit behind him the other day, he is such a laid-back horse. Definitely, I was under instruction to go out of the gate a little bit, to see what he had when the gate opened, and he really exploded out of the gate the way I wanted him to, and then he relaxed, and he was very nice, the middle part of the race, but when I asked him around the last bend, he was just gone. He was so willing to please and willing to go on. It was truly impressive, the burst of speed that he has.
Yannick, it looked like you weren't pressuring him too much. Did he feel like he still had more in the tank?
Oh, he had plenty more. Like the earplugs were still in, and in the stretch after I paced around the ladder up, I was just asking him a little bit because he is a bit lazy. He seems like every time you ask him, like he'll go, and then he's like, okay, if you want me to go some more, you got to ask me, and then you ask him a little more, and he gives you a little more. But what I was truly impressed is maybe with maybe 200 meters to go, ladder up pulled from behind my back, and the minute he stopped, when I felt the horse getting to my right shoulder, and the minute that Lazarus saw the horse, he just hit another gear on his own without me asking him, and the minute he saw competition coming at him, you could tell, like, he's like, okay, let's race now, it's time. And that's what, the whole race obviously was very impressive, but what really impressed me is that desire he has halfway down the stretch when that horse didn't even get close to him. He just pulled from the pocket, and he just, like I said, he hit another gear, just say, okay, like, you're not going by me.
Would it be fair to say, Yannick, as you mentioned, there's been a lot of hype around Lazarus. We've seen this before with some down under horses coming up there, and sometimes the media and things can hype them up a bit. Were you a little bit sceptical, or did he surprise you in any way in that qualifier?
Oh, there's no doubt. There's hypes on a lot of horses, right? There's hype from horses from New Zealand and Australia. There's from down under. There's hype horses coming from Europe sometimes for the big races, for the Yonkers International and those type of races. So definitely the media built some hypes on a lot of horses. And so yes, for me as a driver, like I want to see it. Like I want to sit behind the horse or race against the horse to see what they're all about. So yeah, I was a little bit skeptical. I knew the horse was great down under, but it's different racing. How does he adapt? Even if he's a great horse there, doesn't mean he'll be a great horse here. So I was skeptical, and I think everybody was a little bit like me. They're like, we have great respect for him, but also we want to see it. And obviously it's only a trial. It's only one time, and we'll see how he goes from there. But I don't think he could have made a better first impression. Let's put it that way.
What type of feedback, Yannick, did you give Jimmy Takter when you first came off the track with him?
When I come up the track, he knew I was. He threw the trial the same way I saw it, and we have great communication, Jimmy and I. So like he knew right away, and he says, "What do you think?" And I told him the exact same thing I just told you. what impressed me the most is desire in the stretch when when the other horse stumped. He says that's exactly how he felt training. On the front, you don't really know what you have because, you ask him and he goes, and you ask him some more and he goes some more. But he's not one that will really go on his own unless you ask him. But, he says every time there's a horse that come with him, he just explodes, and he said that's very impressive. And only so many horses have that in him. And, I hope, he keeps going the right way, and there's no reason to believe he won't. But, it was like I say, it was very impressive.
So, Yannick, going forward now, understand potentially the Dan patch is coming up. Depending on how the horse comes through that qualifier, is it your intention to stick with him if you can?
Oh, absolutely. I will be there at the Dan patch and hopefully every race after. But, yes, it's the plan right now. I think it's a great race for him because, it's 13 days from this trial, so it's good timing. And, it's a big track. He can race either way on that racetrack, and I just think it's a good spot. And Jimmy, it was Jimmy's decision, and I totally agree with him. And there's no doubt that I'll be there.
Yannick, you've driven some wonderful horses in your career, the likes of Foiled Again and JK, She's a Lady, and Rock and Roll Dance, who won the Meadowlands Pace and is now standing down under. What is it like for you as a driver to be able to drive the progeny of these horses that you've been associated with?
Well, it's a dream come true, honestly. When you're a kid, you hope to be here in the United States, we call it, I don't know what you guys call it down under, but it's the to-go driver, like the guy that, when there's a horse of the magnitude of Lazarus or like other horses like Father Patrick, or like when there's great horses that come along and you're asked to drive them, you want to be that guy. Growing up, obviously I had hoped to be a top driver, and then when you're a driver and like you're just working your way up, and you hope that one day, when and you see everybody else get them at one time. When I first started, Brian Sears was the guy that would get all those horses. And my dream was like, well, I want to be Brian Sears. And I'm sure Brian Sears, when he was a kid or starting out, it was John Campbell. So there's always somebody ahead of you getting those mounts and getting those drives. So like for me, it was definitely a dream. And when Jimmy got the horse, obviously I drive a lot to Jimmy, so I had hope. But you never know. I don't ask for drive, and then Jimmy came to me and asked me, and I was definitely very happy. And he like I said, it's only one race, but it's a very exciting for the next few months, no doubt about it.
Well, Yannick, thank you so much for your time. I know that Lazarus is a hot topic at the moment and everyone's wanting to get a quote from you about him. So I really appreciate your time, and we're really excited about the partnership that you're forming with this horse and following your progress.
Absolutely, and I hope we get to talk a lot in the next few months.
Well, the Southern representative for Cadet of the Year is Ellie Barron. Ellie, we're here at Addington Raceway. How have you found it so far? We're halfway through.
It's plenty of fun. It's actually been a lot less stressful than I thought it was going to be, so I'm really enjoying it, and I've actually mixed like some fun activities with some good horse-related ones, so it's been fun to forge a shoe, and particularly for me, getting out on Addington track's been a real exciting thing for me because I haven't been out here before.
Was it what you pictured it would be out there?
Maybe a wee bit bigger, but no, it's a beautiful track and it's quite exciting. The sort of scenes, it's a bit different from driving around Wyndham or something down south. Not that I don't love it, but it's exciting to think of the horses and the drivers that have driven around here for sure.
Ellie, you've got a family connection obviously to harness racing, but what was the reaction from family when you went that way career-wise?
Originally, Dad didn't want to push me towards it because he wanted it to be my own decision, and Mum was quite against it. So my dad and his brothers all had to get a trade before they were allowed to pursue the horses, so I, instead of a trade, got a degree, I enjoyed getting the degree, just hated the work, and loved the horses, and I've always loved the horses, but just got more confident with the race horses and really enjoyed the driving at home, got my trials licence, and haven't looked back now.
What degree did you get, Ellie?
I have a degree in physiotherapy, so it took me 4 years to get. I didn't get my licence to drive until my first year out, so I was working when I got my licence to drive.
And has that degree helped you appreciate the physique of an animal a bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. More so just to understand that the horse is actually an athlete as well, not just a horse or a machine like we tend to sometimes think that they are. So Dad's a wee bit old-fashioned, I suppose, in the way we look at the horses, but he's very good with them. So I'll see if I can integrate a little bit of what I know into how we treat the horses.
And it's your first year as a junior driver, 8 wins already at time of recording. Was this more than you could have imagined in your first year?
Yeah, 100%. It was actually, my father's told me I've had far too many wins for someone in their first season, but I couldn't be more grateful to everyone that's put me on and having a really good run. So hopefully just going to keep getting out there and keep learning.
Southland's been renowned as such a supportive base. Have you found that down there too?
100%. Everyone's extremely loyal, and they always sort of, even if it was a junior race, you'd normally get on again after that, and everyone's extremely supportive. Like I get text after text, whether it be win 1 or win 8, it's just the same people getting in touch and being supportive of how well I'm going.
And what are your goals going forward? As you said, this is more than you could have ever expected in the first year, so how do you top that next year?
I guess just to try and keep winning races. I feel like for me, I've had 5 wins on trotters, 3 wins on paces, so I'd like to get those pacing wins up a little bit. I suppose it's a good thing to be nice hands with a trotter, but I just feel like you've got sort of half a second less to think behind a pacer, so I'd like to get a wee bit into more of that action and get some more wins behind a pacer.
Well, Ellie, we're halfway through Cadet of the Year. You're representing Southland and the winner will be announced at the awards, so will you feel a bit of nerves about the outcome of that?
I'm not sure if I'd be nervous. I'm just having such a fun time with the people that are here. They're really good sorts. I haven't had a lot to do with the 3 of them before, which is awesome, and Georgie and Natalie have done such a great job. So I was just thinking before, it'd be lovely just to get up there and get to be at the awards, particularly with Blair winning the premiership. It'd be nice to be there to support him.
Well, Ellie, thanks for your time today. Well done.
Thank you. Cheers.
Well, it's a pleasure to welcome onto the harness half hour North Island trainer Fred Mitchell. Fred, thank you for your time today, and I understand as we record this you're heading up to Auckland with your team.
We are, yeah, we are. We're going up with 3, yeah. The other 2, Master of Escape and Hold All Bets, which is sitting at Kyle Marshall's, Cambridge.
Fred, how do you find all the travelling? You're based in Hawera, but do you find at this time of the year especially you're spending a lot of time on the road?
Yeah, bloody terrible, really. But at the end of the day, we have to do it if we like it.
Absolutely. And you've got a bit of an accent there, Fred. Can you tell us a bit about where you're from and when you came to New Zealand?
I've got no accent, have I?
Not at all.
No. Northern Ireland, I left when I was 9.
Okay, and you came to New Zealand with your family. How did you find that transition?
Well, at that stage, I had no choice, really. I just come out with them. Yeah. It's good, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And then I went back to England after I got married here, and spent 15 years back in England, and then come back here about 15 years ago.
And Fred, did you have any background with horses growing up? How did you get into harness racing?
Well, when we come back to New Zealand, old Taffy Bailey, an old trainer at Stratford, I was talking to him one day and he said, you should buy yourself a horse. And that's where it started, really, unfortunately.
It was just that simple. Were you hooked from the start?
Well, we were. We used to go to Alexander Park all the time whenever we were here before. Mm-hmm. But I'd never known business of owning a horse. Did
you find it easy to transition into the harness racing world, Fred?
Oh, simple, yeah. Yeah, they're a lot easier people to get on with than the galloping fellas.
Well, that's always a bonus. And have there been any memories that have stood out for you in your time in harness racing?
It's hard work, I've realised. When we first got in, we thought it was simple, really, but it's getting harder and harder, isn't it? As we all know.
It is hard, Fred, but of course, once it gets in your blood, it's pretty hard to get out, isn't it?
Absolutely impossible. Absolutely impossible, yeah.
What have been some of the fond memories that you've had, though?
I would say one of my first races, I suppose, and then one of them would be breeding my own 1 or 2, really, which is good. But we haven't got no we haven't got no top horses, as you know. We've just got battlers. Yeah.
Well, it's battlers, Fred, that keep this industry going, and people like yourself that are absolutely dedicated. I note a lot of your horses that you have bred, Fred, have card-related names or gambling-related names. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Not really. It's just a name that we picked.
It just out of thin air?
Yeah, it's only a name that we picked, really. Hold All Bets is one, and yeah. Although a few of them we've actually bought with the names, like Take a Gamble was Ray Jenkins down south, so that already had a name. Yeah, yeah, not a. I think it's only a coincidence, really.
Of the horses you've had, Fred, you've already had 35 training wins in your career and 3 this season so far, but it's your second most successful season in stakes earnings, so you must be very pleased with that.
Yeah, we are getting, to be honest, I am starting to learn a lot more. When I first started, my wife only, she told me I'm only allowed one horse, so I thought, well, yeah, I'm only allowed one horse, no point. So I went out and got, the first season I went out and got 14 or 15, and I thought, well, so I'll get them to train me instead of me training them, because I didn't know nothing, so they could train me. And we started from there, and there's nothing I don't know about tendons. Tendon problems, because every one of them had a tendon problem when I bought them, I think.
Oh no, well I guess it's a steep learning curve then. Did you have anyone that taught you things early on, Fred?
Oh, Taffy Bailey, really, I was the person that was nearly always there to say, and Ian, I suppose I could mention Ian Martin, I suppose, yeah. I was there at times, but no, the biggest thing was always my pocket that taught me.
Yeah, but it's not so easy to cut down on numbers, is it?
No, it's not easy to cut down on numbers. No, but possibly it is.
Fred, I note you quite often support the likes of Kyle Marshall, and you've got Fergus Schumacher on the horse at Alexandra Park. Do you like to support the junior drivers?
Oh, definitely. The young fellas, they're trying their damnedest to get out there and get drives and whatever, and they're good drivers. I can't complain. Sure enough, Kyle gets the odd bollocking whenever he gets in at times, but you have to support them because they're trying very hard.
And you've got a great relationship with the Marshall family too, I understand.
Oh, good. Yeah, brilliant.
So when you come north, you base yourself there?
Yeah, I do. Yes. Well, yeah, stay the odd night here, and then when I'm the odd night I come up with Wally Fleming, we stay at Pukekohe and just race at Auckland, whatever. Yeah.
And do you have, Fred, a favourite horse that you've trained over the years that's been one that stands out above the rest?
Pennies are flying. I would think Pennies are flying would be my old pet, really.
Mm-hmm. Was there a particular moment?
Yeah, whenever she won the first $10,000 maiden at Turnigo. Mm-hmm. No, I was watching the wrong horse.
No, really?
Yeah, really? Yeah.
So, where did you think you finished?
I thought I finished about 6th or 7th, really, and Scotty Dixon's driving, and Lydia Pickford to come up to me and give me a kiss, and I said, "What the hell's that for? You bloody what an idiot!" yeah. So yeah.
I guess.
But Penny's Flying's actually bred nearly all the horses that I've got now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so
it just keeps on going every year.
Hold All Bets is out of her as well. So yeah, as you say, you'd have a real personal connection.
Yeah. Well, she was a Hold All Bets is a 3/4 to the Mighty Twin.
Oh, beautiful.
So, but it's not really coming through very quickly, really.
You never know. There's plenty of time, Fred.
Plenty of time, exactly. Yeah, you never know.
Well, it's a pleasure to chat to you, Fred, and get to know a bit more about you. So thank you so much for your time. I know you're getting ready to head to Alexandra Park and get the team going. So good luck tonight, and it's a pleasure chatting.
Okay, thank you.
It's a pleasure to welcome onto the Harness Half Hour Tom Conroy, who is General Manager at Forbury Park. Tom, thank you very much for your time. And firstly, how long have you been in the role there?
Yes, it's a pleasure to join you, Jess. I joined coming up 6 months ago now in a transitionary role to cover for Rodney Moore, who's the previous manager. He was undergoing some treatment, and sadly he's passed away. It was a horrific battle with cancer, but and a sad loss to the harness racing community. But I've stayed on in the interim and to do some change management stuff for the club and continue on the good work that he put in place. So my short stay has now been extended, and I'm enjoying it.
And was it something that you were quite keen to see through, your involvement with Forbury Park going forward?
Well, I had a lot of the skills they were looking for and happened to be the right place at the right time. I had a sort of management background years ago with Mobile, and I did some television, owned a TV station, and we broadcast nationwide at that time, and we had the Southern Harness Racing Show was a popular inclusion there. I was also involved in and still am, in the promotional videos for the yearling sales on behalf of Southern Bred, Southern Red consignment that many of your listeners may be familiar with. So you throw in that experience plus some event promotion and management background. I was a harness racing person. I've been a stable hand and briefly an amateur driver. So when you add up all that together, I knew most of the people in the industry in this part of the country. So that helped with the transition for the club, with all our customers and our club members. So it was a sort of a natural move into this role by chance, and it's been a perfect fit for me. At least I hope the club think the same.
I'm sure they do, Tom. And just touching on QTV and your involvement there, that must have been a huge workload and a huge amount of pressure put on you and the team.
Well, it was a small team doing a huge job, especially when we did go nationwide. Originally, we were a regional station, and then we blossomed out onto the Sky Network and Freeview Network, and suddenly, instead of having 60,000 potential viewers, we had about 3 or 4 million.
Wow.
But it was great because a product like Southern Harness Racing Show is a good example, although it's a southern-based product. It was of national interest because the people, of course, follow the racing, follow the people involved. So, and that was true of many of the products we made. So suddenly we had a lot of external interest in what we were doing. That did add pressure, and of course commercially it was hard to keep going because we had a very small budget. But we lasted 19 years from the day we started regional TV to the day we concluded our broadcast platform. So we're very proud of what we achieved in that time. Raised lots of money for various charities, put people on the map that previously didn't have a chance to get to a national audience. So yeah, we're proud of what we achieved, and then we stepped out of the transmission market into a production house and continue on that role part-time, as I say, still involved in harness and sport and one-off events. So, it was a terrific experience. It was hard work, but very rewarding.
And Tom, going forward with your involvement with Forbury, do you see part of your role to continue that work in promoting the industry via social media and your track?
Absolutely, that's going to be one of many facets that I'll offer the board here as a way of getting out there with our good news items. And I think the other part of my background that will be useful is the club's willingness to embrace the call for racing clubs to improve their hospitality and entertainment options. As you know, to help contest the discretionary spend for people who are looking to have fun, and also identify opportunities within the facility to diversify our income streams for the board to consider. So to that end, we've already got a new tenant on board operating a standalone restaurant that's opening on the 1st of August or thereabouts, who will cater for race days but will also bring in a unique dining experience for everyone else in the city. That way we can bring new people to the venue, and it's my job to get them hooked on harness racing effectively. So we'll run some joint promotions, we'll try and capture new audiences and bring new events here. And that's what I think I'm going to bring to the role, is to present the board some conceptual options about how we can do this, how we can underpin our future sustainability, then implement the ones we all agree on.
Well, it sounds like a fantastic plan and some exciting months ahead for Forbury Park. Tom, I guess the enviable position that Dunedin presents is that you've got a new intake of people and students every year.
Well, that's the key, isn't it? Finding ways to attract a new and younger audience is the toughest part of this role. And I'm sure you've heard this before from many areas within the country. How can we package up a day's racing to provide the buzz they seek? What other activities can we host to get new faces physically to the venue, perhaps totally unrelated to racing? Then we can transition them to a harness fan base or ownership or sponsorship. And our best source of youth is clearly the University of Otago, which we need to find ways to tap into that and provide means of interacting with the student base to mutual advantage. How can we get them down here doing things maybe harness related, maybe not, and get them to stay here and keep coming back? And that's something we haven't been able to do successfully over the years, but I think there's a pathway to achieve that.
Well, listening to you speak, Tom, it sounds like some exciting times ahead. And a note too, you've got a Sunday meeting coming up. So that's a rarity and a good opportunity for the club to, have a day meeting in the weekend. Yeah,
well, it's fabulous. The season starts with 2 Sunday meetings back-to-back, and, of course, we're traditionally known as the Thursday Club, and it gives us a chance to experiment. On the one on September the 2nd, it falls the day after the sellout Pink concert at Forsyth Bar. So we like to provide some entertainment for the throngs of people coming to the city who are staying for the weekend. So we're going to be hosting a Pink-themed day with family fun to be had alongside some of the traditional harness-related activities like kids' carts and dual sulky rides. But it's very early days in the planning, but we've had a chat with the Breast Cancer Foundation, who are keen to link in with their pink ribbon theme, so we'll raise some money for them. That marries in nicely. And it's a great example of how we need to piggyback on other happenings around Dunedin with the fantastic array of events that Forsyth Bar are a prime opportunity to build on. So when they bring 30,000 people to town, we need to make sure they're aware of what Forbury Park can do to add to their fun time that they have over the weekend in the city. Oh, well, it sounds like a fantastic event, Tom, and we look forward to following your progress with the team as well. Good thinking by you and the team, and thank you so much for your time today. It's been a great pleasure, and talk to you anytime you wish. Well, it's that time of the podcast where we chat to Richard Wilson, bookmaker for the New Zealand Racing Board. Richard, starting off with last Friday night at Auckland, and only 2 favourites home. That's a bit of a rarity.
It is, yeah, just the 2 there. But punters were very well on to both of them. Madame Conestra, very hard to say, but easy to back, $1.80 into $1.70. And the other one with the great name, Weigh and Ride Yourself, $2.50 right into $1.80. So those 2 very bad results for us. But the best bet was a beauty in the middle of the program there, 10,000 on Like a Wildfire at $4. So that one hurt a bit really, because there wasn't a lot of other money for Like a Wildfire. $3.70 I think he opened that out to $4, and then just before the start, 10,000 at that $4 hurt us a lot. Ouch, yeah, I'd imagine so. You would be thinking you were safe for a wee way there. Joe's Dream, this mare's had a great season. Yeah, had she, and put herself in exactly the right spot, and was too good. Up the lane there, there was good support for her as well, $5 into $4.60. Thankfully, there was a couple of big bets that missed out though. 10,000 on the Hulk at $3.70. 10,000 on Spirit of Love at $3.90, and also 5,000 on Mo Casino at $3. And he was pretty solid again around that $3 mark. But again, placing I think for him. Okay, and the best back runner on the card, All About the Base. Yeah, it was $2.40 into $2.20, close to 20,000 I think it was on All About the Base. So that also provided a little bit of relief for us. Okay, also on Friday night, because we didn't have any Thursday night harness racing last week, but Friday we had the double header with Addington, and it seemed as though the punters had better luck there. Exactly, Jess. Yep, they were going along quite nicely. Half the card, half the 10 races there, won by the favourite. The best bets there, 10,000 on the Dominator at $2.40 and 5,000 on Ferenz at $3.50. So not a lot of difference in the profit there between those 2 bets. But it was anxious times. If you're watching the Dominator, get up on the inside and they hit the line together with Idle Moose. The commentator went for Idle Moose, and we thought we were a chance, but after a couple of minutes, the Dominator had the win. So, bad result for us there. Thankfully, again, though, a couple of big bets going the wrong way. 10,000 on Amethyst at 240 and $6,000 on She's a Cullen Girl at 450. So there were plenty of decent clicks off Cullenburn early on at 280, backed right into 230, and in the first race, Brian was 320 into 270, the favourite.
Love that name, Brian. So simple and short. Sunday at Oamaru down in North Otago, a bit of a plunge there.
The good old-fashioned plunge here, Jess, on Smarter VC in the third race. Opened at 7, backed right into 360, so that's a big move in anyone's book, and got the win easy enough in the end, really, there. So, we got stung there. $1,000 at 4 and $500 at 480, 450 and $4 were the biggest bets, but there was plenty of other little sort of $100, $150, $200 bets, just really rocking home that result there for the punters. Other well-backed runners to suit there. Tyree Miss in the first, 12.50 into 9, and in the last race, Clive also opened at 12.50 into 10. There were some decent clicks off those two, and also in the race 7, $1,000 on Chief of Staff at $4 was successful, whilst $1,000 on Eden Creek at 360, 880 on Imran Khan at 14, and 500 on Clover Lou at 7. All missed out to help us pay for that Chief of Staff bet.
All right, and there was some other big bets there on Deloncom by the sounds.
Yeah, $4,000 Deloncom at 160, and also another big bet there, $5,000 on Donegal Mary Francis at 650. So for the week, it's a high proportion of $5,000 and $10,000 bets this week.
Okay, and moving on to the multi, you find a multi each week for us. Richard, what have you got for us?
Yeah, this is quite a good one again. $40 spend on Friday night. They started off with the Buckeye Bullet at 170, into Tech Maggie at 390, the Dominator 240, so that was a bit of a close one. Cruisy Dude at 185 for top 3, and ended on Dr. Tim, $3.10 top 3. Turned their $40 into $3,650.
All right, and no sign of a greyhound in that multi this week for once?
No greyhounds there, thankfully, and the Amazing Chase was run on the week on Friday, so they could have put that one in there too, but no, they left that one out.
Oh, thank heavens for that. And before we sign off, Richard, as you promised last week, you've got the Dominion market out now.
Yes, indeed, the pre-nom Dominion market is out. Mombay, the $2.80 favourite. Speeding Spur there at $6.50, and Great Things Happen, the other one in single figures, at $7.50. Not a lot of action over the weekend, but there was 200 each way on Habibi Inter at 41. So there is a little bit of interest out there.
Okay, and of course, don't forget the New Zealand Trotting Cup Futures market out also. Richard, thank you very much for your time. We'll let you get back to enjoying your day off.
Yep, no worries, Jess. Thank you very much.
Well, as we wrap up this week's Harness Half Hour, racing this week coming from Cambridge on Thursday night. Friday night, Addington will take centre stage, and Sunday, Forbury Park in Dunedin will have a day meeting. The new season harness racing diaries will be hitting mailboxes this week as well, so keep an eye out for yours in the mail. And the licence holders directory will also be out at the start of September. In news from Harness Racing New Zealand, HRNZ is thrilled to announce that all races from the Ashburton Trotting Club on Labour Day Monday and all races from the Kaikoura Trotting Club on their Cup meeting Monday will be broadcast on Sky One in Australia. This has come about due to negotiations with the TAB and Sky Australia, and HRNZ would like to express our appreciation to all parties for making this possible. And that's it for this week's Harness Half Hour. Thanks to HRNZ Marketing. Check out the HRNZ website and social media platforms each Tuesday for the latest episodes.